All right, welcome back to Forge in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today, I have a guest that doesn't like the color green. He is a champion, not a regular season champion, but the champion. Chad, it's so great to have you on today.
Rob, it's a real privilege to be here.
Oh man, you and I got to run in the 5K. That was so much fun. And tell me more about. I want to go actually back to the World Championships.
Yes.
Talk to me more about how that process in creating the team came about to be able to make that World Championship a possibility.
Yeah. So in the second season of the Camping World PBR Team Series, the Texas Rattlers did, as you say, make a run.
Yeah.
The regular season was won by the Austin Gamblers, who I lovingly refer to as the Ugly Green Team. That's the second season in a row where they've topped the regular season standings. And I'm very pleased to say that this year in the championship event, which arguably counts a little more,
it gets you better parking in Fort Worth, I guess.
Our boys brought home the buckle. It definitely gives us better parking here in Fort Worth. So yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I credit the riders and our coaches for sure.
Yeah.
These guys are committed. The vibe in our locker room, similar to a lot of the other teams, it's super strong. We believe in our program and just keeping it simple. And so our coaches really teach the simplicity. Bull riding is extremely difficult.
Right.
My head coach, Cody Lambert's fond of saying, but it's also at the same time extremely simple. And so those guys came together, around the common goal. I think they felt like in season one, we let a little bit of one slip away.
Yeah.
And they were determined to win the championship in season two and pulled it off.
I love the team aspect because it's something that's new to the PBR. It's something that brings in a lot of other people who maybe never even heard about professional bull riding. Tell me more about what the team aspect of the PBR is. Like, how does it work and how does it function within the winning a championship in essence?
Yeah, I think it really is a game changer because for 100 years since the first time someone was crazy enough to put a rope around a bull's,
hey, let's do this.
A bull's waist and thought it would be a really good idea. And then, figured out that 8 seconds seemed like the right amount of time.
Yeah.
So in team bull riding, of course, the thrill that's always been present in bull riding that's drawn fans in, for 100 years,
right.
Is there. But what's really cool, and I think part of what makes it more accessible and interesting to more fans is that now with the team series, they're riding together as a team.
Right.
And it brings in many of the dynamics that are familiar to all of us that follow other team sports, right? I'm a fan of Rob, and Rob's riding on the Texas Rattlers. And so therefore I'm already invested in all of Rob's teammates. I'm also now invested in, Rob's in-state rival, the Austin Gamblers, because I want, our team to do better than the other team. I think there's a hometown pride aspect to the team series. In our case, a lot of our riders actually live here locally in the greater Fort Worth and Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. And so I think for them, there's this sense of I'm riding for home dirt.
Yeah.
We have throughout the 10 teams, I think, really compelling, team logos and team identities and designs. And so, I remember when I was 6 or 7 years old, I grew up in Oklahoma. We didn't have an NFL team, and I loved black and gold because it was the colors of my grade school. And so I became a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or in the case of our team, we have a really cool rattlesnake icon, as our logo, and there are young people who think snakes are really cool. There's some young people who are a little scared of snakes, and so maybe the Rattlers won't be their team. So the point is we have all these levels of sort of in dimensions of fandom that are so familiar to us again as fans of other team sports. And we now have that in bull riding. And I think it's making a more compelling product.
I love that aspect. And, there could be one day where one of your team members is not having a great day and the other has to pick them up. How has that changed their mindset? Because they were in individual kind of silos going after this championship. How were they able to change that mindset of these riders to go, hey, if you're having a bad day or this person is going better than you, let's all be on the same page.
Yeah. And be invested. That's a terrific question. And it's the right question. We all have off days, whether we're a business person or a, professional sports athlete. And so I think the team aspect brings with it this opportunity for a guy, a rider always wants to have an on day.
Yeah.
But if there is an off day, there's still a role to play for you in the locker room on the back of the bucking chutes, right? In supporting your guys to to make the whistle, as we say, to reach the 8 seconds and deliver a score. They're professional athletes like all of us at every job, right? In this case, they're riding to put food on the tables of their family, right? To pay their mortgage, pay their rent, same as anybody else, just a little bit of a different kind of a job. And they are in this position now where they can really rely on their teammates, rely on the coaching staff. So I think some of it, to come back to your question, kind of what makes it different and how do the coaches, instill within them, the team bond. Some of it's coming naturally. Yeah. Certainly at the end of the second season, I think in all team locker rooms, some of it's coming naturally. But the better coaching staffs are really able to kind of get in that rider psychology.
Yeah. Unlock, that's a huge aspect.
Yeah, it really is, and unlock the potential. It's actually it is a huge aspect. Let me speak to it for a second, because I think for the last 100 years of bull riding, there's been very little coaching occurring at the professional level. Guys are fundamentally responsible for developing themselves.
That's crazy.
I think a lot, physical fitness and strength, and guys working with trainers on their own to really figure out how do they need to condition their bodies for success. That, I think, we've made huge advances in that over the last 10 or 15 years. But I think in many cases, it's been the guys who are doing better, who have more financial resources, who see that as a competitive advantage opportunity for them. Right. And they're investing their own money, right, into training. But very few of them, I feel like, are really getting coaching. And so part of what a significant change that's occurring with the teams is that all teams on some level for their riders are investing in sports training staff and, psychology staff. Certainly every team has a coaching staff. Right. And I think we're starting to see the yield of that. Not even just at the team level, but as you know, Rob, many of the guys competing on teams are also competing in individual PBR bull riding series. And I think we're over the next couple of years going to see an improvement in rider skill because of the coaching and the other resources that are being brought forward by the teams. No,
when you look at mindset in the PBR and teams and individual, it is so critical. And you have these guys that are coaches that they've been in those shoots many, many times. Mm-hmm. How did you pick those coaches? Because that has to be something that's hard, because like you said, there was not really much collaboration. Mm-hmm. It was, I'm going to tear you down. I'm going to beat you. I'm going to go 8 seconds. I don't care what you do. How do you get those coaches who have that infinite amount of knowledge to also buy in?
Yeah. This is a fascinating question. And I think we could have a 2 or 3 hour podcast episode on it, to be honest with you, because when we really think about it, every single coach most teams have 2 coaches. So there are 20 coaches across the league right now. Yep. None of those coaches had ever coached a professional bull riding team before because they didn't exist.
They didn't exist. And it wasn't a job for it.
Many of these coaches all of them actually were elite level riders in their day. And they were the kinds of men that aspiring bull riders would look to for guidance and support. And so I think many of them had functioned in a mentoring capacity to some group of bull riders over the years, but never in a structured fashion. And so one of the really exciting things to me about this young league is that they're literally, inventing the art of coaching along the way. They're having to make it up as they go. And of course there are sports coaching principles that they can all draw upon that are very well documented and very well developed, but never coaching for professional bull riding teams.
That's crazy. That's crazy. It's like, that in itself. The number of hurdles, I have to say, that the teams aspect has had to not only just get through, but had to learn and then advance. How cool is that to be on that forefront of creating something for others along the way that, you look 10 years down the road and all of a sudden everybody's like, look at where we're at now. Mm-hmm. How is that going to feel for you to be able to be, I was in the trenches in the beginning?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question because honestly, it's fueling a huge part of the joy that I just have, the privilege that I feel in having this job and being able to do it day to day. I worked for the league office for just over 8 years. and was a key contributor to the launch of the PBR Team Series.
Cool.
And so I've been in the room for 8 years with many of the founders, my coach being one of them actually, of the PBR, and listening to them tell the stories about, 34 or 5 years ago when they came up with this concept and they met in a hotel room in Arizona or in New Mexico, and they all chipped in $1,000 and they worked hard, and with a lot of luck, they turned it into what today is PBR. And I feel like now those of us in the team series are
same thing,
having this privilege, of reliving this experience. Having said that, we are definitely standing on the shoulders of all the work that PBR has done, and what the founders and all the riders and everybody who's been involved have built over the last 34 years. We're not quite starting from the same place, but we are to some extent, making up some of this as we go. And for me, it's an absolute thrill.
That's awesome. I love it. All right. I want you to leave us with some wisdom from the Rattlers. What do you think people who maybe don't understand or know the PBR or know PBR teams, what is something that they can take away from the mindset, from the resilience, from just the passion that is the PBR? Yeah.
I think so much of bull riding, the bull riders and the coaches, will say, that it's 90% mental and 10% physical.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that can be a metaphor for life, right?
Yeah.
We need to have ourselves in the right physical shape, and the physical conditioning to meet our goals.
Yeah.
But so much in life, I think, again, whether we're talking about business, whether we're talking about parenting, our children, right?
Right.
And helping develop young minds, whether we're a professional athlete, any of the above. I think it is often 90 or 95% mental. And so one of the things that I'm so grateful living and working in this Western lifestyle family for is just the bull riders again and again are demonstrating, grit and try.
Yes.
And every now and then, they're going to get bucked out. They're going to get bucked off a lot.
Yeah.
But most of these guys just get back on because they've got try and they've got love for it.
Yep.
And they've got try. And so I try to take a lot of lessons day to day from that. And I think fans can too. This is an environment where, our young people can, I think, learn a lot about resilience and self-reliance, and we're better for it.
I love it. Well, Chad, thank you so much for joining me today. Such an honor to have a world champion on. So best of luck this year.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Rob.
Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next time.